This video is brought to you by NordVPN. On Wednesday last week, Estonia's public broadcaster ERR reported that the husband of Prime Minister Kaja Kallas had continued doing business in Russia since the start of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and that Kallas herself had provided his business with a €350,000 loan. This didn't go down well in Estonia, not least because Kallas has established an international profile as a vocal supporter of Ukraine, and there were even rumours before the scandal that she could end up as NATO's next Secretary General. Kallas claimed that she wasn't aware of her husband's business dealings and pointed out that he didn't violate any sanctions, but polls suggest that most Estonians still think that she should resign. And at the time of writing, the opposition is making plans for a no-confidence vote in the Estonian parliament. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what happened, whether Kallas can survive, and what might happen next if she's forced out. So let's get straight into it. According to the report, Kallas' husband, Arvo Hallik, owns a company called Navaria Consult, which, according to Estonia's business register, provides financial services and consulting advice. In and of itself, this wouldn't be controversial. But Navaria Consult has a 25% stake in another company called Stark Logistics, and Hallik himself is both its chief financial officer and a board member. Stark Logistics is an Estonian company that basically helps other, larger companies with their supply chains, and has continued to do business in Russia since Putin's invasion in February of last year. Specifically, Stark has been sending parts to a factory in Russia that produces aerosol cans, as part of a contract that it has with client AS Metaprint, a conglomerate that manufactures metal containers. Both Stark and Metaprint claim they're currently winding down production in Russia, and these recent deliveries are mainly about getting the last bits and bobs out of the country while protecting Estonian jobs. But an Estonian paper last week reported that Stark has earned €1.5 million from serving the factory since the beginning of the war. These revelations have put Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas under serious political pressure. Kallas has made a name for herself as a vocal supporter of Ukraine, and is Estonia's most well-known politician by some distance. For context, relative to its GDP, Estonia has been the biggest supporter of Ukraine, and the country has taken in an enormous number of Ukrainian migrants. Kallas' government has also banned Russian migrants, taken steps to ban Russian-speaking schools, and removed Soviet-era monuments. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds a little unfair, given it was her husband's business, not hers. But the waters have been muddied by the fact that, last June, her annual declarations to the Estonian Tax and Customs Board revealed that she had lent €350,000 to her husband's company. At time of writing, Kallas has said that she wouldn't be resigning, and on Wednesday afternoon, a few hours after the report was published, Kallas went on the attack on social media, stating that, quote, ERR published a news item today, suggesting a company connected to my husband was doing business in Russia. I would like to emphasise that my husband has no clients from the Russian Federation. Kallas' husband has also said that he'll be selling all his shares in Stark and stepping down as its CFO and board member. In defending her decision to stay on as PM, Kallas has basically made two arguments. First, she didn't have complete knowledge of her husband's business, and second, that he didn't do anything illegal or violate any sanctions. On Thursday, for instance, Kallas said her husband's business was, quote, in accordance with the laws and sanctions currently imposed. But this hasn't been enough to silence her critics, and the story continued to run over the weekend. On the first point, her critics argue that it's implausible that she didn't know anything about his business dealings, given that she gave him a €350,000 loan. On the second, while it might technically be true that Hallik didn't violate any sanctions, her critics argue that Kallas has nonetheless been hypocritical, both because it's hard to square this with her vocal anti-Russian stance, and because Kallas, in the past, urged other Estonian companies to avoid dealing with Russia, even if their businesses wouldn't be prohibited by sanctions. In December, for example, Kallas banned the Estonian state-owned railway company from transporting Russian nickel, even though nickel isn't sanctioned, arguing that the Estonian state shouldn't have any business dealings with Russia or Belarus. Her critics also argue that she hasn't provided a clear response to the allegations. Postimees, a major Estonian newspaper, accused the Prime Minister of being evasive with her answers, arguing in an editorial calling for a resignation that, quote, "We didn't get any answers on Wednesday or Thursday, and there's no reason to believe we will hear any on Saturday or Sunday." Another big Estonian paper also ran an editorial suggesting that Kallas should resign last week, and two separate polls found that a majority of Estonians thought Kallas should quit. Over the weekend, the Baltic News Service reported that the opposition Centre Party was considering a no-confidence motion against Kallas, arguing that the scandal was hurting Estonia's international reputation. Whether or not Kallas can hang on ultimately depends on parliamentary arithmetic. At the elections in March, Kallas's Reform Party won a plurality of 37 seats in Estonia's 101-seat parliament, and then formed a coalition with two smaller parties, Estonia 200 and the Social Democrats, which have 14 and 9 seats respectively. In practice, this means that Kallas currently has a 60-seat majority, but if E200 withdraw their support, she'll be unlikely to survive a no-confidence vote. If the Social Democrats withdraw their support, then she might be able to, but she'll have a razor-thin 51-seat majority. Even if one of her MPs votes against her, she'd lose. Worryingly for Kallas, on Monday, Alar Karis, the leader of the Social Democrats, expressed concern that the scandal was hurting Estonia's credibility, and that the business activities of Prime Minister Kaja Kallas's family members vis-à-vis Russia have raised many questions in the media and in society, and have put the spotlight on the head of the government and the values that Estonia must follow. If Kallas does resign, then this will really shake up Estonian politics, and chances are that her Reform Party would be succeeded by either EKRE or Centre, the second and third largest parties at the moment, which are both significantly less pro-Ukraine. For context, EKRE opposes sending any more arms to Ukraine or taking in any more Ukrainian migrants, and their leader made headlines in April when he claimed that Ukrainian refugees would bring AIDS into Estonia because they'd end up as prostitutes. Similarly, the Centre Party has traditionally polled well with Estonia's ethnic Russian minority, which accounts for about 25% of Estonia's population, and they would likely reduce support for Ukraine. Clearly, Estonia's current crisis affects not just Kallas, but also the West's unity on Ukraine. Following stories and doing independent journalism often requires a fair bit of travel, from attending the NATO summit in Lithuania or Munich Security Conference to exploring Aldi across Germany or being forced to hang out with fellow Nebula creators. It's all right for some people. What is consistently annoying, though, is the technology. When you need to work from abroad or even just access the services you're used to, it's often way harder than you'd like, requiring endless verification, validation and authentications. As I'm sure you already know, that's when NordVPN comes into play, helping you connect to the internet wherever you are. Whether that's connecting back at home so your work account doesn't freak out, or connecting to another country from the comfort of your living room to get discounts on your next trip. That's right, very often other countries get cheaper prices for flights, with research finding US consumers pay up to 3 times more. NordVPN are actually currently running a major back-to-school promotion, which means that when you sign up for a 2-year plan, you not only get a massive discount, but you also get an extra 4 months. That's a huge discount if you click our link. Plus, Nord will keep sponsoring TLDR if people click it. We've been told that sometimes when people hear us talk about NordVPN, they open up a tab, start searching, but they don't click our link. I'm certainly glad that they get the service, but you only get the discount and you only support the channel through that link. So if you're trying to improve our journalism by signing up for Nord, use our link when you do, and you'll get their great service at a discount.